healthcare system is broken, but it doesn't have to be. This is Revenue Cycle Optimized by Infinix Healthcare. We discuss the latest challenges in the revenue cycle space and provide actionable tips on how to overcome them at your organization.
Hello and welcome to another episode. I'm Stuart Newsom, your host. Today we have a real treat for you. I was able to sit down with Kristeen Coronado, our Chief of Operations for our ERS division, and able to ask her and see what was in her head about what was the growing trend with our prospects. Now, Kristeen oversees our RCM line of business, our end-to-end RCM. So she has firsthand knowledge of what's going on, what she's seeing as far as denials, what are some of the difficulties there are out there with a lot of the practices, particularly in cardiology and orthopedics. An interesting thing that she brought up right off the bat was CO252, which is the request for medical records denial code. And so she's going to share a lot of really handy insights on how to recognize this growing trend and stay ahead of it, basically. You know, what remedies that you can have to make sure that you stay on top of this. So sit back, relax, enjoy this recording. You're going to really gain a lot of knowledge from Kristeen. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'll see you next time. Let's talk about that very first question. What trends, or patterns are you seeing across our customers right now that we're servicing?
Well, I'll tell you that over the last 2 years, I would say, but really this last year, the extreme number of medical records requests from carriers is something I've really never seen before in this industry. Yeah, it's really, and I would take one carrier in particular and say United Healthcare has really, I'm sure they had to hire a ton of people just to request these medical records. Mm-hmm. And they've built a portal on their website where you upload all of them. And I can tell you that these requests come in as a denial on the claim. And it's called a CO252. And it's a request for medical records. And so when your payment posters are posting these denials, your billing staff have to be totally aware and available to see why this claim has been denied. And when you have very high volume, it's impossible. Right. It really is. An everyday mom and pop medical practice has no way to keep up with these records requests, and oftentimes it goes unanswered. Right. And they don't get paid.
And it's likely because of that, especially if they throw that curveball,
absolutely,
because it's like, that new denial code that you just stated. Yeah. They're like, well, what is this denial code? So either you got
to go look it up, and then it's a medical record request. Well, then they go, if you don't do this within 30 days of the date of the request, and Blue Cross Blue Shield only gives you 15 days.
Oh, wow.
If you're not really attuned to what is going on with your accounts receivable really fast, you're going to lose a ton of money. And not only that, they start wondering if you're not sending records because there are no records. Well, that's obviously not the case, but they said that then it triggers an escalated request for records. So once you don't answer the request, they're going to amp it up.
Right.
And do more. And so we, as a revenue cycle management company, we've had to beef up our employees just to deal with this one denial. Wow. And so I don't know how regular staff, that are just trying to keep up their heads above water, even deal with this problem. And I would tell you that a lot of the doctors don't even know this is going on.
Yeah, because it's and you made a good point there, where if the payers find something that they can hone into on, like if you're not sending in, if you're not responding, there's two problems there. To your point, that creates a pattern where they're just going to hit it again and again and again.
That's right.
And then the second point, the longer you delay, that this delays your payment even more. If let's say you best case scenario, you get it resolved, but to your point, you have to do it very, very quickly.
And if they don't have a portal to upload them, let's say that you use regular snail mail, when you call back to these carriers that don't have portals, they never receive the records. And we know that's not true, but you can't prove it because you mailed it. Same thing with a fax machine. You have your proof that you faxed it, but they don't have to say that they received it.
Oh, wow. See, it's can be very one-sided. We see a lot of that going on out there.
There's a ton of this going on. And then the second prong is they've reached out to the patient and requested information, and the patient hasn't responded.
Well, of course, the patient is not going to have a clue.
Exactly. And they don't, I mean, there's a lot of times there's a form of questions they're asking the patient, and Blue Cross is really good about this. They'll send you a request for information, you send it back, and they never received it. So then they deny claims based on the fact that they didn't receive information from the patient. So it's just a crazy circular situation that really just is a mechanism to deny your claims.
Yeah, and I would speculate that it is a mechanism that is intentional, obviously, but also that they have made all these medical requests that are increasing. To your point, when you stated they must have hired some people to handle this. Well, not so fast, because that may have been the objective. I mean, I'm not pointing fingers. Definitely don't want to be an advocate for accusing payers for doing anything like this.
No, you don't, but you got to wonder.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, we never got it, because you're right. They don't really have to prove that they've received it. We see that even in other situations where the status of, say, a prior auth. Let's say, we just, did an office hours several weeks ago about, sending in as stat. And if you send it as stat, then you're making it worse, because the mind frame is, oh, I'm going to send it as stat, I'm going to get it back quicker. Well, it may not qualify as stat because the documentation may not be there. But basically, at the end of the day, it starts the clock over, because what they can do is they can say, okay, well, we're going to make this a normal prioritization. But along the same tenor of what we're talking about here, they don't have to notify you that they have changed that status. So it's kind of the same thing. It's the game of, we don't have to notify you of anything. And it's interesting you say Blue Cross Blue Shield requires 15 days, but it's 14 days legally for them to pay a claim.
Yeah, right.
Even though it's all about delaying that, but I find that interesting in of itself. Just an observation there.
Well, when you look at it, it is an investment to hire a workforce to basically request information that they know they're not going to receive, right? For the most part. So they are investing in it. So that there's an end goal, since they are investing the staff to request the records and to review the records, and there's like a three-pronged goal here. Let's deny the claim, right? Let's request the records. Then if we get the records, we want more records. Now we want more records.
Right. We want to see.
That's it.
Not just the record for this this visit, but let's look at other previous visits. For the patient.
What led up to the order of this test? Well, then you got to start sending previous records. What led up to that? Well, then you have to really be reading the records yourself to see, well, what is it really that they're after here?
Right.
And so a lay person, a front office person, may not be clinically savvy enough to even understand what it is they're really asking for.
Right. You're right. And where to find it. And it all goes back to documentation is king. It's all about documentation. And physician practices should be used to that right now. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. But
that's right.
To your point, that may happen, but where is it? Where is it located?
That's exactly right.
So what do you think the reason behind that is, other than the fact that maybe it's this game that we're all assuming to if not outright deny claims and prevent payment, but delay payment. We know that probably is, it's safe to say, if you want to, point the accuser's finger, but what would be a rational reason why the increase in this? We understand the reason. They want more clarity because the coding probably wasn't good enough or articulate enough. So we understand why documentation would be requested, but why the increase? Why the sudden influx of the frequency?
I think it's to establish medical necessity for the order of the test. So if you really want to get serious and you want to know really what's going on with this patient, why you're ordering it, let's say a nuclear stress test. Is it because the patient has chest pain, or is it some other reason you're ordering the test? And so if it's legit, they're legitimately trying to establish medical necessity. That's what I think.
Right.
And a lot of physicians may be ordering the test, and it's completely supported by medical necessity, but they don't understand what keywords are required to establish medical necessity in their documentation.
Right. Or paint a picture with the coding. Do you think
That's
it could
exactly
be the
right.
lack of coding? Because a lot of people will code one code, maybe two, when they send it in, but I've always said coding's the language, that payers use to understand what's happening at the encounter.
That's absolutely correct.
And so if you don't have all the symptoms, to your point, why do they need this test? Is it because of chest pain? Well, I'm going to need a little more than that. So surely the patient had more than just chest pain. There probably were some other signs and symptoms and other comorbidities, if you will, that were associated with that. I think being exhaustive with your coding may help, but still there may be that ulterior motive lying underneath.
Exactly. And what better way to deny paying for a test than asking for records, asking for more records, and then say, aha, this didn't really support medical necessity, so therefore we're going to deny the claim.
And that could be months down the road.
It could be 6 months down the road. And then you have no leverage to start the claim all over again.
Because of timely filing restraints.
It's you would have to basically correct the claim if there was an opportunity to do that, to start it all over again. But then if this is not Medicare, it's, let's say, United Healthcare, where 90 days, it's over. You're done. You can't correct the claim at this point because timely filing.
Right.
So I would say that United Healthcare probably requests records on at least 30% of all their claims.
Wow.
And it could be specialty driven, right? So in cardiology, it's going to be a huge number, whereas maybe primary care wouldn't necessitate, a huge list of requests for records, but specialty driven, when you're talking about orthopedics, urology, cardiology, it's a high number, very high number. So you have to have a lot more staff these days to work claims. And like you said, documentation is king. Lots of education with the physicians and the providers to understand exactly what is needed to be documented. And it's just very onerous that doctors feel like they spend most of their time on paperwork instead of really handling patient care. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating, right? And it's frustrating for everybody involved.
No administrative burden. Yeah. So,
Yes.
That there's legislation to try and reduce that, but I think it just adds to it as well. So,
and then you brought up pre-authorization. Sometimes you can't even get the pre-authorization to order the test, and ultimate person that's going to pay for that is the patient.
Yep, they sure are. So it's going to come back and circle back with them. So when we look at what advice would you give to those out there who are seeing this or going through this? Because we know, it's not just our clients, it's everyone.
It's everyone. That's right.
Yeah. What advice would you offer them?
I think that you have to be understanding that you need more staff. It's you can't really, you can't go off of basically one FTE for every 3 providers anymore. It's almost a 1-to-1 ratio is what I would say. Yeah. And that
I'm
has
sure
nothing
that
to
staff
do with, but go ahead.
no, I was just saying, I think that staff would have to be trained as well and
That's
understanding.
it. That's exactly
Making-
right. I mean, our own staff, we spend a lot of time every single Thursday afternoon. This afternoon, we'll have an accounts receivable meeting company-wide, and we'll go over all these themes and how to basically address these issues, and how do we turn that claim into revenue for our clients. So we do a lot of education with our own staff, and then we have monthly education with our physicians, just explaining to them what is really needed in the documentation. It's a lot of time that we spend doing that, but it's necessary.
Yeah. Have you seen some good results? I mean, in other words, what have we done for our clients and the physicians you serve? What's the fruit of that?
The fruit of that is when you respond with timely reporting of records. I would say that they kind of flag you as the client, that they're not going to request as many records from you as they might have before, because you respond correctly.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game right there. It's not
It
only
is, and it's
Yeah.
sad, but it is a game, and
Yeah.
you have to play it correctly.
you have to give us. It's kind of like a weed that grows, right?
Absolutely.
And if you don't pull that weed or take care of that weed, then it's just going to grow
It's
and it's
gonna
going to multiply.
It's gonna go out of control. That's right.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to use that today, Stuart.
Okay.
This
Okay.
afternoon in my meeting, I'm gonna refer to these as weeds. I like it.
Awesome. Very nice. Very nice. So with just a few minutes left here, this one question, what big bet would you make on cardiology revenue cycle, and why? Like what is the big thing that you would say, I'm going to put my money on this, particularly in cardiology?
Man, that's a great question.
I know you go several different ways with that.
Well, we're getting this population that we have is getting older, right? And most people, I don't know about you, but most people need a cardiologist. I don't even know, or will need a cardiologist. As a country, we have a huge problem with obesity, right?
Right.
And obesity has all of its, its own problems, but it's a real stress on your heart. And so I think that more cardiologists might be, I don't know, incentivized to help address the obesity problem.
Oh, you're right. Get more involved in maybe some weight loss, even that's more for internal medicine. You see that mainly.
Well, I have a
medicine.
cardiothoracic surgeon that's actually prescribing Ozempic for a big portion of his patients.
Yeah. Well, as you said, it takes stress off the heart. It also probably helps improve vascular, movement and just health and well-being,
right?
Of overall health. I mean, because the goal is to have healthy patients, right? It's all about the quality of care. Obviously, I remember the day, I think long ago, maybe cardiologists thought, well, just, a heart surgeon or I want to treat the disease. So just bring me cases that I can treat. But now it's more about how can I, keep my patients healthy and live longer. I know that's the goal ultimately has been for all time, but I think we've gone from just where it's the patient comes in, they have a problem, going to fix that problem, kind of a transactional type of an arrangement, where now it's more of a relationship kind of an arrangement where
treating the whole patient.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a great discussion. I appreciate you sharing those insights because I learned something today.
Well, and I appreciate your comments too.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to get notified when our next episode is online. For more information for how we can help you increase reimbursements at your company, check out our website at infinix.com. That's INFINX.com.